Hey, welcome to my English Skills series, in which I cover various strategies that should hopefully transform your English GCSE grades. In this video, I will discuss verb choices. But how can something as simple as verb choice transform your English grades? Let's find out. Hey, I'm Liam, aka Mr. Knight, aka DystopiaJunkie, and the skill I will discuss in this video is verb choice, which, to be honest, I think will help you in other essay and text-based subjects, and not just at GCSE level, but at A level too. So why not grab a pen and piece of paper and make some notes as you watch? Of course, if this video does help you out, you can let me know by liking it, commenting on it, and by subscribing to my channel, if you haven't done so already. Before we get too much further into the video, I thought I would be honest with you. This skill is not something that I have created. One of my former colleagues shared this strategy with me, and they found it on a teacher blog called Mark Roberts Teach. And now I'm sharing this strategy with you, using my own examples, analysis and commentary. I've left a link down in the video's description to the specific blog post that this video uses. Do check it out. Here we have 4 sentences, all of which could begin to answer the question, how is the character Mr. Burling presented in An Inspector Calls? Apologies if you don't study this text. I've got it on the brain at the moment, and the skills that these examples are modelling should become apparent regardless. So my 4 examples are: in the orange box, Mr. Burling is shown to be a greedy capitalist. In the red box, Priestley shows Mr. Burling to be a greedy capitalist. In the purple box, Priestley highlights Mr. Burling's greedy personality, which is caused by the character's capitalist beliefs. And in the light blue box, through his portrayal of Mr. Burling's greedy personality, which is caused by the character's capitalist beliefs, J.B. Priestley criticises the political ideology generally held by those in power in 1912. But which is best? If you're anything like my former pupils, you are likely to say that the bottom 2 are better than the top 2 because they are bigger. And in this case, you're not wrong. Further to that, you're probably inclined to say that the bottom right one, so the one in the light blue box, is better than the one on the bottom left. Again, you're going to usually be correct there, as the example in the bottom right box is better than the one in the bottom left box, although using a mix of both of these across an essay is probably the best strategy to use. But why are the bottom 2 so much better than the top 2? Well, the top 2 use what I call declarative verbs. The bottom left uses what Roberts calls analytical verbs. And the bottom right example uses what Roberts would call evaluative verbs. But what do these 3 categories actually mean? So both of these examples use what I am calling declarative verbs, examples of which include shows, suggests, and even is, and of course their various tense forms as well. However, these verbs tend to create analysis that is simple, general, and generic. The analysis they create is not particularly deep or insightful. As a bit of a side note, I would say that the example on the right is better than the example on the left. The example on the right uses the active voice, which means that it tells you who is doing the showing, in this case, Priestley. This helps you to always consider that it is the author who is making things happen, which stops your analysis from becoming something that treats Mr. Burling as if he is a real person and not a character. We could call the example on the left an example of passive voice, as we are not told who is doing the action, the showing in this sentence. So because of the weaknesses that I've just pointed out to you, you are now, because you've watched this video, going to try your hardest to avoid writing sentences that only use declarative verbs when writing an essay. There is a time and a place for them, for sure, but if you base your entire essay off of them, you will find it hard to achieve good to excellent grades. Here we have my example of a sentence that uses an analytical verb. But what is an analytical verb? Well, there we have a list of them, most of which have come from Roberts's blog. There's loads more over there too. I've tried to squeeze in as diverse a range as possible. But what do analytical verbs do? Well, using them instead of a declarative verb helps you to create a more specific, detailed statement. Rather than saying that the author does a thing, you're saying that the author does a specific thing. But why is this so important? Well, it helps you to reach a more immediate focus on what the author or character is specifically doing, which helps to speed up your analysis because you're getting to it straight away. And now we have reached the example that uses an evaluative verb. In this case, the evaluative verb used is criticises, which is why I've put it in bold. So there we have a number of different evaluative verbs and synonyms for them. You could use criticise and its synonyms when writing about how someone is pointing out the flaws of something. Questions and its synonyms could be used when writing about how an author wonders whether or not something is right or proper. Ridicules and its synonyms can be used when an author makes something or someone look stupid. Celebrates and its synonyms could be used when an author praises something and shows it to be really good. Subverts and its synonyms can be used when an author or character goes against societal norms or makes something a bit atypical and different. Finally, accepts and its synonyms kind of act as a weaker version of celebrates, etc. It can be used when an author presents something as okay, proper, or allowed. Over on Roberts's blog, he provides more synonyms for each type of evaluative verb, so I do recommend checking it out. So I hope you can see that using evaluative verbs allows you to write something that is super specific, critical, meaning detailed and scholarly analysis, and funnily enough, something evaluative. It will help you to make a judgment. And that judgment helps you to immediately focus not only on what an author or character does, but why they do it. Meaning you can simultaneously juggle analysis with a consideration of the author's aims and intentions. All of this will help you to speed up your analysis as well, as, again, you're getting stuck straight into it. So here we have a really straightforward analytical paragraph. It's answering the question that's at the top of the screen. I won't read it out, as you can pause the video and do that yourself, but I will point out how I've used verbs in this example. Where analysis is involved, I've more or less used the same declarative verb, show, and its associated forms throughout. You can find those here. You can also find it here. You can find it here. And finally, I think you find it here. I think there's only 4 examples. Now, whereas there's nothing particularly wrong with this paragraph, it's not particularly interesting, exciting, or analytically deep. It should just about get a GCSE pass, but it definitely will not reach the top grades. So, how about we see an improved version? Well, there you go. That is my improved version for you. Again, I'm not going to spend ages reading it out, as I think you should pause the video and have a read of it yourself. However, I will tell you why it is so much better. Firstly, I have used a blend of evaluative and analytical verbs. The evaluative verbs are in bold, and I've counted perpetuating and encouraging as evaluative too, as I believe that they do pass judgment to an extent. Analytical verbs, on the other hand, I have written in italics. This blend has allowed me to seamlessly weave in comments about the author's intentions, whilst it has also allowed me to be specific when I discuss what the author, his language choices, and his character are doing across the play. Generally, the more specific your analysis is, the deeper it is going to be, which gets you more marks. Secondly, and I guess this is implied by the first point, by using this blend of verb choices, I am constantly considering the play An Inspector Calls as a piece of fiction, as a text that is constructed by another human being. It's easier, I think, to pull apart the text when I consider it as a piece of fiction rather than something from real life. Finally, and I guess this is sort of a bonus, using analytical and evaluative verbs intrinsically encourages you to use higher order vocabulary. The verbs themselves are examples of more advanced vocab, but they raise the standard of the rest of your prose too. Certainly, I found that when I was writing the second example, I more naturally used more sophisticated language. And doing this will naturally make you write in a more sophisticated, advanced, and eloquent way too, which is only going to raise your grade. Okay, there we go. That is my discussion about verb choices over. But don't close the video just yet. Before you go, please consider liking the video if it's helped you out, dropping a comment on it to let me know how much it has helped you out, or to ask me a question about verb choices. And of course, please do consider subscribing to my channel if you aren't already. As well as that, here's an example of an analytical paragraph that relies on those declarative verbs. Why not see if you can elevate it by rewriting it using analytical and evaluative verbs? You shouldn't need to change the ideas of the paragraph too much, so even if you don't study An Inspector Calls, you should be able to do this. Focus instead on the expression of the argument. Draft and redraft it on a piece of paper, toy around with it on your computer or laptop or iPad, and of course, feel free to share your improved paragraph with me down in the comments section. Depending on how generous I'm feeling, I may even give you a quick bit of feedback. Now, regardless of whether or not you do that, I really do hope that you have an awesome rest of the day. If you are revising, please remember to take short, frequent breaks, as a burned out student is not a happy or successful student, which is what you deserve to be. So there we go. That is how you can use verb choice to improve your written analysis. Now go and write about how a character is elevated in a certain text, how certain views are demonized, or even how certain traditions and stereotypes are subverted. You can do it.